I took the case because there's a Virginia law right on point, and I thought it was a slam dunk case. I never would have taken this case had I known how involved it was. But once I was in it, you're in the case, and I'm a very stubborn and competitive individual, and so I kept going with it. I didn't know that it was going to go to the Supreme Court. They take so few cases. I knew we had a shot at it, but when the Supreme Court referred it to the Solicitor General to ask the Solicitor General's opinion as to whether or not they should take the case, that was a good sign. And then in January, when I heard they took the case, was when I finally knew. There was a retired federal employee. He had Federal Employees Group life insurance. He designated his wife as the beneficiary. They got divorced. He remarried. He died unexpectedly and never changed his beneficiary designation. So his ex-wife was still designated as the beneficiary. And under federal law, they want to pay the beneficiary designation. Under state law, they want the money to go to the family, not to the former spouse, if there was no post-divorce indication that he wanted the money to go to the former spouse. And the question is, can a state do that, or does the federal law, which says pay the beneficiary designation, preempt the state laws? The moot courts were very helpful. They were very challenging, and challenging from the standpoint of you getting very beat up. They're attacking you left and right with these questions, and at the end of it, you feel like you don't have a chance. But it really prepared me well for the day of.
Divorce laws, which, that's what all divorce laws do.
They helped me prepare quite a bit. I don't think I would have done as well without the moot courts, and would recommend anyone who is going to go and be before the Supreme Court to do the same. The whole experience in general was surreal. You're like a rock star for the day. I got out of the car and a crowd started cheering me as I got out of the car to head up to the Supreme Court. And then being in the court and arguing with some of the greatest legal minds there are is a fantastic experience. And I had, I thought, a very good exchange with Justice Kennedy. He raised a concern which I felt I addressed very well, and I think he felt I addressed that concern very well.
If you're representing an insurance company, you wouldn't say you better enter plea to be on the safe side?
I think they have established under the Kennedy case that they have a duty to pay the designated beneficiary. With regards to ERISA, it was very clear that the plan administrator has to pay. So I think that there's no concern at all for the insurance company.
I was prepared, I felt, for every question except for one, and that was a helpful question. And Justice Alito was asking me a question which was helpful to my position.
The will of the insured, then I don't see why it would provide for federal law to override a subsequent will which directly expresses the desire of the insured.
But I was in such a defensive mode that I was being argumentative with Justice Alito.
I don't think Feglia says that. What it says is...
And Justice Ginsburg steps in and interrupts me and goes...
You would agree with that. I assume you would agree with what Justice Alito just said.
And I was like, yes, yes I would. So I really appreciated Justice Ginsburg helping me not make a fool of myself there. A lot of people heard me on WTOP. A lot of people saw news stories about it that I wasn't necessarily mentioned in, but the case was on, I think, Channel 4 News. There was a lot of publicity about this case, and it seems like the whole Fairfax Bar knows that I was there. I was at an event, and everyone was just congratulating me. I worked very hard on this. In fact, I worked on this than anything I've ever worked on in my life. I've worked very hard on certain things. I've passed 2 different bar exams. I've taken the CPA exam, and I passed it in one sitting, and very few people do that. And this was harder than that, and I'm glad I did it. But what I don't know that's what I'm going to remember. I think what I'm going to remember is the day of, because the day of was like magic. It was, all the preparation sort of came to fruition, and it was a fantastic experience. So the message of the story is make sure your estate plan is up to date. Don't just go to your attorney and get your latest will, but you have to follow through on all the recommendations also. And titling of assets is a very important component to that. And we as attorneys can recommend to you the best course of action, but a lot of times you have to make sure you dot all those I's and cross all the T's to make sure it's all taken care of.